Hello and welcome back to the Rise and Ride show. Thank you for joining me again this week. Whether you identify as a highly sensitive person or you simply recognize that you feel things very deeply, this episode is for you. Have you ever been told that you're too sensitive? That you overthink things? Have you been told that you feel things too deeply or need to toughen up? I mean, the toughening up comment in the horse world, so annoying, so annoying and so common. I actually don't think that we need to be tough to deal with horses at all. That's my personal opinion. I think growing up, you were kind of seen as tough when I was younger, maybe, or it was mentioned that you were tough if you kind of did all the things that a horsey person the horsey person does. I mean, there's a lot of heavy lifting, isn't there? And a lot of manual labor, but actually horses don't need you to be tough. They actually need you to be a little bit sensitive. So the toughen up thing in the horse riding world, since I had my break and came back into riding, that I would say has been the biggest shift for me, is the change and the it's gradual, but the change that I've seen in people's attitudes towards toughening up. Anyway, I sort of went off on a bit of a tangent there, but maybe you believe that kind of being sensitive is the reason for your confidence issues, or why your confidence disappears in certain situations. But what if that was the very thing that is one of your greatest strengths, that you've been trying to change it, but actually it's a massive strength? So what is a highly sensitive person? There's a psychologist, Elaine Aron. So they introduced the concept in the 1990s, which someone my age doesn't sound like that long ago, but it was a long time ago. Research suggests that around 15 to 20% of people have a more sensitive nervous system, meaning that they tend to process information more deeply, and notice subtleties that others might miss. It's a personality trait and not a disorder. That is really important to know. It is not a disorder. It's, there's not something wrong with you if you're highly sensitive. But people vary massively on how strongly they identify with it. So signs that kind of you might relate to this personality type is that many riders might recognize these kind of tendencies. So you notice tiny little changes in your horse. You pick up on the atmosphere at the yard as soon as you arrive. Slightest bit of criticism stays with you for days. You feel overwhelmed by busy competitions. Loud environments tire you. You replay your lessons afterwards. You care deeply about doing the right thing by your horse, to the point that it worries you. So are you actually lacking confidence, or are you simply processing more information than the average rider? So your strengths, you can kind of notice subtle changes in your horse. So a tiny stiffness, a slight change in their breathing, a different expression, a change in their rhythm, that's like a superpower. That's amazing. To be able to see those little nuances in your horse. You can catch illnesses before they become full-blown catastrophes. You can probably ride a dressage test beautifully, unlike me. And you can protect your horse and be there and be your advocate for them, because no one knows your horse like you do. So even when you kind of call out a vet, you can say, you know, no, this is not their usual way of going. This is how they usually are, and this is how they are now. You build deep partnerships as well. So sensitive people often value connection over control. So that can create like really, really strong horse-human connections and relationships, which is just amazing. You will have natural empathy. So you naturally think, why is my horse behaving like this? Instead of, how do I stop this behavior? That is massive. I mean, lucky horse that they've got a sensitive person that will look after them and treat them like that, because let's face it, we all need that, don't we? You're thoughtful, you prepare, you learn, you reflect, and that often leads to really excellent horsemanship. You know, if you've thought about what you've done hasn't worked this time, you'll reflect on it and think, well, how can we improve? And that will just create more of a bond. It's like a snowball effect. It just creates more of a bond with your horse. It improves everything, and yeah, you can just move forward really nicely and gently. So the downside, unfortunately, sensitivity isn't always easy. So you might absorb everyone else's emotions. That's a complete bummer, isn't it? You might catastrophize after your mistakes, because we all make mistakes, but beating yourself up over them does nothing. That does not help. Looking at them and seeing how you can improve for next time, yes, that helps. But beating yourself up over it is no good. You might fear judgment from others, especially in like busy environments, busy yards, busy competitions, clinics, things like that. You might avoid situations because they feel overwhelming, and you might put enormous pressure on yourself to kind of perfect everything. The important message from this is that sensitivity isn't the problem. Learning to manage your nervous system is key to this. So if you are a sensitive person and you want to compete, competitions can really, really overload the nervous system. There can be lots of noise, announcements, obviously loads of people, loads of horses, and different types of people as well. Lots of pressure. The travel's never easy, is it? New environments, new things to spook at. It's not a weakness that you'd find that stressful. It's just overstimulation. So practical strategies are basically to try and reduce the unnecessary stimulation. So if you spend some time, I'm a massive list maker. If you spend some time kind of making a list of the last competition, let's just say competition. Not everyone wants to compete, and I understand that. That's fine. But let's just say competition, but this can relate to clinic or whatever you want to do with your horse. But let's just say competition, because that's the most common thing. If you think about the last time you went to a competition, and I'm sure you've already thought about all the things that went wrong because you're sensitive. But if you write those down, the things that really stressed you throughout the day, then they are the things to flip the script on as much as you can. I mean, I know that you cannot do anything about how busy the warm-up ring is, but you can go to shows instead that have got really well run warm-up arenas, because some are like the Wild West and some are really well managed. So you can speak to others and say, oh, where do you find is the most fantastic warm-up area? Where are the best run shows? You know, there are Facebook groups and things that you can ask questions like that in. So if you do a list of everything that stressed you out last time, your aim is to go down that list and put in a plan to kind of reduce the unnecessary stimulation. So you could, if the journey stressed you out. So last time I did a show with my girls, we left the yard too late because Toby wouldn't load. So we've practiced loading, and we will leave earlier next time. So we feel like the loading thing is like ticked off, and then we'll just make sure we leave earlier. So arrive early, find a quiet place. So maybe if it's a venue that you might know kind of the area where the horse boxes park, and maybe you could kind of aim to get there for a time that you could get on an end or something like that. Maybe limit conversations before riding, like chat to the people that are going with you, and just say, gosh, I find like before I ride, I get really overstimulated. So if I go quiet, I'm not being rude, because I think half the time we get so stressed because we think that other people get cross with us for not chatting and not being our normal selves. But you can just pre-warn and say, I'm not being rude if I go quiet. This is just what I need. This is how I cope. And you should be, your friend or whoever's going with you should be absolutely fine with that. It's just nice to say it beforehand so that they know that you're not having like an existential crisis inside. Protect your energy. So not everyone deserves access to your mindset before you compete. You don't need to go chatting with everybody at the show. You can stay polite and quiet. That's fine. And then have a reset routine for when things do get too much. A deep breathing exercise, a grounding exercise, walking in hand with your horse, maybe putting one AirPod in and listening to some calming music. That can really help, because you've got that in your back pocket for when it all gets too much. There's never any problem with getting off the horse. If you've done the first thing and allowed yourself plenty of time, and you get on and then you think, oh no, this is all getting too much, get back off, walk around, get back on. And then, if you've got plenty of time, it doesn't matter how many times you do that. But most importantly, don't mistake emotions for danger. Feeling nervous doesn't mean that something bad is about to happen, and you need to train your nervous system, because obviously that's what it's there to do, is to warn you that when you start getting nervous. The key is keep breathing, and even if you just talk to your horse the whole time, don't let your nervous system get the better of you thinking that something bad is about to happen. That is not necessarily the case. It might just be that you are overwhelmed and overstimulated in other areas. If you are choosing a coach or an instructor or trainer, whatever you call them, sensitive riders tend to flourish with coaches who will challenge them, but they will make them feel psychologically safe. So I would speak to other people that are similar to you and ask who they use, and then maybe book in like a tester lesson, and say that beforehand, because you can put it on you, because sometimes we feel awkward about booking something with someone and then not booking another thing. I mean, all the coaches I know have got plenty of work. They won't be stressing if you're not an exact match. But if you're getting a new coach or trainer, speak to other people the same as you, with the same kind of outlook as you, see who they use, and then say to them, look, I can really struggle sometimes. Can we book in a tester lesson? And then like while you're warming up, you can talk through the things that you struggle with and just see what answers come out. And then you'll soon see if they're for you. Do not keep struggling through with a trainer that doesn't make you feel good, because this is supposed to be fun and you are paying them. So you need to, this is me being firm. Did you hear my firm voice then? You really need to have someone that makes you feel great. So, little challenge. What would happen if you stopped trying to become less sensitive and started learning how to make your sensitivity work for you? I think you'd feel pretty good. So if you just go over everything that we spoke about earlier in this episode, I think you can really start to nail down the things that you need to make you feel good in your riding. And then you may well find that the nerves that you thought you had weren't coming from where you thought they were coming from. And then I just really want to distinguish between high sensitivity and anxiety, because they're related, but they're not the same. Someone can be highly sensitive without being anxious, and someone can be anxious without being highly sensitive. So, if you are highly sensitive, it's okay. It's not a problem, but they are two separate things. I just want to say that. And I also want to say that the horse doesn't need you to become someone else. They don't need you to be louder. They don't need you to be tougher. They definitely don't need you to be tougher. They don't need you to be more confident overnight. But what they do need you to be is present and calm and connected. And those are the qualities that most sensitive riders already have. So, I mean, it's odds on that your horse is already like loving life with you. So yeah, if you would like to share with me whether you identify with this episode, that would be amazing. You can comment on it, or you can contact me in my DMs on Instagram. I'm at align.and.advance. I always have to really think about that. Yes, it would be lovely to hear from you. And I hope that you have a really good week, and I will see you next week for another episode. Thanks so much for listening. Take care. Bye.